What seemed to be a peaceful morning in the town of Adi Daero in northwestern Tigrai soon turned into bloodshed as Eritrean forces conducted consecutive aerial bombardments, killing 8 civilians, most of which were children. Image of the airstrike is still very much vivid in the minds of mothers, family members, and neighbors that witnessed children's bodies being dug out of the wreckage on the morning of the Mescal holiday. Many victims of the attack say they were at home with family members when out of nowhere the jet began its attack.
My name is Soliana and this is where I live. On Mescal holiday, we were at our home having coffee.
I was sitting here. My pregnant daughter was sleeping over there and her daughter was by the bed. We were talking and playing. Out of nowhere, it buried us in the rubble.
It was the holidays, so we were just having coffee. I have never imagined something like this would happen to us.
Soliana stands in the ruins of what used to be her house and tells us about the victims that died that day. Fortunately, she herself was dug out of the wreckage alive, while the bombing buried a 3-year-old child and her mother, killing them instantly.
It was this house here. This is where the door used to be. They only found some parts of her daughter's body. You can see that her shoes were left there. She was playing here. This is the dead child's shoe. She was playing by the door. Her mother used to beg for food, and her belongings you see here, people gave them to her. She didn't have anything. The large hole on the ground you see here was due to the airstrike. It wasn't here before.
Michuti Tesfai, an 8-year-old girl, would also be buried in the rubble, along with her pregnant mother and her grandmother. Masal Burhana, Michuti's grandmother, says the airstrike killed Michuti instantly, while her mother Bayenesh was able to survive the attack.
My grandchild asked me for food. She was just eating over there, and we were watching TV. Out of nowhere, the airstrike hit and buried us here. There was a small hole where the wreckage had buried us, enough for me to scream out of. I screamed for help. I was listening to my daughter's voice at first, but soon it stopped. People came and dug me out of where my head was sticking out. When they dug me out to my chest, I begged them to save my children. I asked them to let me stay there and instead dig out my child. I told them Michuti was over there and that Bayenesh was here. When they dug my daughter out, she was unconscious and bleeding from her mouth, but they told me Michuti had instantly died.
Mahlit Kidana is also one of the children that lost her life that day. Mahlit had been living with her aunt, Mu'isho Kidana, after losing her mother at the age of 3.
Around 25 people were injured while 8 died. 6 of them died right away, and the other 2 died in a hospital. My niece was killed too. Her mother had died when she was 3, and so her grandfather and I raised her as her parents. We didn't think this would happen. There is no military movement here. This is just a neighborhood of the poor. This is Mahlit Tsaggai. She is my niece. Her mother passed away when she was 3. She was killed when she was in her house.
On the day of the attack, another mother lost a child. On her way to a hospital in Shira, Astil Gabra Mescal says her daughter died in her hands, while the airstrike left her son with a head injury. I
have never imagined a jet would hit a place like this. Unfortunately, it did. And I lost my daughter, Milene Shmedlis. She died in my hands. I took her to a hospital in Shira, and she died in my hands. And my son was hit in the head. Fortunately, he's alive. There's nothing left from the wreckage. No food, nothing. I don't know what they wish to gain by bombarding us. Civilians that work hard for their living, whether it is by scrubbing dishes or anything.
The Adi Daero massacre on the 27th of September was not the last residents of this small town had to endure. Ethiopian and Eritrean forces would conduct drone attacks on the IDPs in the town just weeks after the first strike, killing 65 and injuring scores more.